Are you seeing the verse, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Sure. I don't know what it did. Okay. Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to Monday morning Bhagavatam reading, daily Bhagavatam reading. Please accept my beloved senses, always to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. I have no qualification to talk in the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. My limited knowledge and whatever I could speak is to please, whatever I could speak is by the mercy of Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, and it is to please the devotees. Before speaking, I seek blessings of all the Vaishnavas I attended here and my Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. The deities Shri Gadadhar Chandra. So I can speak something beneficial to everyone and also which can bring transformation in me too. Let's start the prayers. Om Ajnanathmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmetam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Ayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavatam prayer. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswati vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati sloke bhakti bhavati naishtukim. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. We are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 10, title Bhagavatam is answer to all questions. Text 17. So let's recite the words. Pranenakshipata kshetrit antarajayate vipo vipasato jaktascha pranmukham niravidyata. Synonyms: pranena, by the living force; akshipata, being agitated; kshit, hunger; trit, thirst; antara, from within; jayate, generates; vibho, of the supreme; vipasataha, being desirous, to quench the thirst; jakshataha, being desirous to eat; cha, and; prak, at first; mukham, the mouth; nirvidyata, was opened. Translation: the living force, being agitated by the Virat Purusha, generated hunger and thirst, and when he desired to drink and eat, the mouth opened. Purport by His Divine Grace, Avacharna Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The process by which all living beings in the womb of the mother develop their sense organs and sense perception appear to follow the same principles in the case of the Virat Purusha, the sum total of all living entities. Therefore, the supreme cause of all generations is not impersonal or without desire. The desire for all kinds of sense perception and sense organs exist in the supreme, and thus they take place in the individual persons. This desire is the nature of the supreme living being and supreme living being, the absolute truth. Because he has the sum total of all mouths, the individual living entities have mouths. Similarly, with all other senses and sense organs, here the mouth is the symbolic representation of all sense organs. For the same principle apply to the others also. So, yeah, just to summarize what happened until now in the chapter, I'll just quickly summarize and then talk my understanding of what I would like to convey and say. So in this chapter, in the beginning, Sukadeva Goswami started explaining the 10 topics of Bhagavatam, like Sarga, the primary creation; Sarga, secondary creation; Sthanam, right, situation of living entities; Poshanam, the maintenance; Manvantaras, reigns of Manus; Uti, impetus for creation; Ishanukarta, signs of God; Nirodha, winding up; Mukti, liberation; Ashya, supreme shelter. So if you take any topic of the Bhagavatam, it should fall in one of these 10 categories. And after explaining these 10 categories, then from the verse 10 onwards, so therefore Swami started explaining the process of creation. That's the primary creation. I think it's the primary creation goes until 35 or so, 34, 35 something. And then the secondary creation explanation happens. So in the primary creation, the first, it said, like Mahavishnu entered into each universes as Garbhodak Sai Vishnu and created Garbhodaka waters. After that, Lord, desiring to manifest varieties of living entities, the desire was generated seminal symbol in golden hue through his external energy. And then Lord divided his potency into 3 categories, which are called Adidaivam, which are controlling entities; Adhyatmam, controlled entities; and Adhibhutam, the material bodies. From the body of the Mahavishnu, the energy of the senses, mental force, bodily strength, and the living force of living entities was generated. And senses, in the next verse, I think it speaks like senses become active following the action of the living force, and they get inactive when the living force becomes inactive. So from this verse, text 17 onwards, until 30th, here Sukadeva Goswami is explaining all the different senses, sense organs, and their controlling deities within controlling deities. So the first verse, so Adhyatma is like the individual senses or activities. Adi Daiva is the controlling deity of the senses. That's the controlling the particular sense. And Adibhuta is a material sense organ, like example of a tongue, eyes, or skin, all those things. So coming to the purport, two pieces I thought of explaining. The first one is just the desire for all kinds of sense perception. The desire for all kinds of sense perception and sense organs exists in the Supreme, and thus they take place in the individual persons. So whatever we have, all the desires for all sense, these are coming from the desire of Lord to have that specific thing. So in that context, like I was just thinking to like means we heard like many devotees until today they were talking about how supreme is the Lord, and Lord is the supreme Father, and Father of all creations, and so in that same context, I was thinking like means when I just get a example like means in a father and child scenario, if father gets some sweets or some candy or something for the child, and when the child brings with love to the father and gives to the father, like father would he is happy, and father would like to express his love through by giving it back to the child, or opening the candy and putting his in the mouth of the child, and maybe hug him or kiss him, and that's how they share. Like it brings in the happiness in the father and also child. So, and the next example which I was looking is like if you think in a middle perspective, like any corporations or like government or anywhere. So every financial year they'll have like so many budgets for spending, right? And when a particular department is allocated with a specific amount of funds, and think that those funds, the officials who are responsible for spending those funds, if they spend a righteous way, which is expected by the particular department head, so the person, the official gets the recognition, whereas the official who uses those funds for a personal purpose or misuse them, he would be considered as a fraud, or he would be imprisoned, or like he would be sent out of the company, like many things. So in that context, what I was thinking is like when we use our senses, what we receive from Krishna and in the service of Krishna, that would bring in happiness to Krishna, because we are trying to be in line with the thoughts what he is looking from us, and at the same time it will bring us the happiness too, so we don't have to suffer in this material world. In the same context, like I think in the 210 votes, the Goswami was also saying that the right situation for the living entities is to obey the laws of the Lord, and thus be in perfect peace of mind under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Manus and their laws are meant to give right direction in life. The impetus for activity is the desire for fruitive work. So, yeah, we're all working for the fruitive results, but when we live by the rules set by the Manus, which would let us be happy and be under the protection of the Supreme Lord. So in the same context, like I was just thinking, giving like if we look how enjoying the senses might bring in fear or distress for us. Like if we take means there are many examples where it's been shown from the life of Indra. He tried to steal the horses from Prithu Maharaj's horse sacrifices. He wanted to do hundreds of horse sacrifices every time. Indra tried to steal the horse because he is fearful of losing his position. Like means once Prithu Maharaj completes all his 100 sacrifices, he'll become powerful. Maybe he would like to get my position. That's why. At the same time, when Vishwamitra Muni was doing sacrifices, like means tapasya, Indra was trying to disturb his tapasya. And surprisingly, I heard like another thing in one of my Guru Maharaj's lecture, where it looks like Indra sent a Cupid to disturb the tapasya of Naranarayan Rishi, but where Naranarayan Rishi is not disturbed by the Indra's acts. But yeah, like Indra is like, even though Naranarayan Rishi is Supreme Lord, Indra knows that he is the thing, but still he was fearful of losing his position, so he did try to disturb the tapasya, like just to not to make the. I mean, he always thinks that okay, they are doing all these things just to get my position, and so at the same time, like in the we look at it in Chaitanya Charitamrita, many devotees who are there, like means they are very well rich and wealthy people. Still, they would like to renounce all their wealth. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned to one of those examples is like King Prataprutra, because he was not getting the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and King Prataprutra wanted to renounce all of these things and become an individual, so he can be in association of Lord. But finally, Lord gives his association, and King Prataprutra stayed in position, and he served Lord. He ruled the kingdom the way Lord would like, as per the scriptures. And other example is Raghunath Das Goswami. We know that like how much he wandered, when he became like, originally he used to eat the prasadam which was left, means thrown in the garbage cans outside the temple. But after some time, he felt himself that he is eating all these things to satisfy his senses. Then he started living only by drinking a handful of buttermilk. So, so and another thing like which I heard like sometime back in Maharaj's lecture, like when senses are used in the service of the Lord and they are compared to a serpent where their venomous fangs have been removed, so they're not so much harmful or make us bind to the material nature's laws. So, though the devotees, when they work, they might look like they're engaging in these materialist activities, but because their thoughts and sense are being in the service of the Lord, they're not bound by the material nature. And the next thing which I was thinking was in the first sentence of the purport, it says, the process by which all living beings in the womb of the mother develop their sense organs and sense perceptions appear to follow the same principles in the case of the Virat Purusha, the sum total of all living entities. In this context, like again, I was just thinking of how the current world, how we work and things. So the template of every living being, like not every living being, like means how it needs to be created. It's all being explained in this chapter, like how the whole process of creation is happening. And once this is ready, so and Lord is not really watching or purviewing the process of like, oh, it's been working correctly or not. Like it just happens under the purview. Material energy keep doing the thing like creation. But whereas the ones, if someone wanted to create a laptop or any device or anything in this, so the blueprint is created, but after that someone makes that specific thing, but someone has to go and make sure that quality check or something it's meeting the standards, nothing is wrong and all the stuff. But in the spiritual creation, that is not there. It's just happening by its own. And the other thing which I was thinking is like a soul has to accept a body in order to express one's free will in the, like what I meant by in the material world. And all different bodies are created around the soul based on one's desire and karma to express one's free will. So here Lord is creating all these different bodies of the different creatures or entities in the material world to express everyone's free will. Whereas the creation, what the humans do is to show how perfectly we can control things. So whenever something goes out of a human control, they try to stop it or stop the things. Okay, so that I just want to conclude. In order to be happy in this temporary world filled with sorrow, we need to use our senses which are received from Lord in the service of the Lord Himself, like Ambarish Maharaj. So I just want to read this thing about Ambarish Maharaj. I know that most of us know how Ambarish Maharaj used all his senses in the service of the Lord. Maharaj Ambarish was always engaged in his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his touch, sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of Tulasi offered to the Lord, and he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasada. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord. his head bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarisha never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in the devotional service in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. In this way, we can be in line with the business. So if we can try to engage all our senses in the service of the Lord, so we can be in line with what Lord is expecting from us, and how we have to behave is already specified in the scriptures. We can be happy in this world. Yeah. So with that, I'll conclude the session, and please forgive me if I spoke something wrong or misrepresented with my limited knowledge. With that, I would open anyone can share their thoughts on this specific context.
Hey Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna Mataji, please.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes.
It's a very practical class, I felt, and it's very beautiful the way you have concluded by translations of these beautiful verses of Amrish Maharaj. Definitely a wonderful meditation as the day begins. I was really struck with that example that you mentioned about the government officer using for his own purpose, but versus when used properly, they'll actually be rewarded. So somehow for me, this connection came, how Gopal Hari Prabhu was talking yesterday evening in Sunday Fifth class about this, the Prarabdha Karma examples. So thinking of the short term, I'm thinking, okay, I want to have this pleasure or that pleasure. Let's take that example of diabetes. Right now, I'm really enjoying the sweets and I'm like, hey, this is the best thing that can be possible. But at that point, we don't really realize, as you were saying about this, at that point, if I am corrupted and using that for, whatever, buying a luxury car or house or whatever, with that corrupted money, I'm actually seemingly enjoying and having the happiness. So at that point, it doesn't really, our thoughts don't go to what happens later. Let me really enjoy now. That's a typical mentality. But I'm really, really appreciating, hearing last evening and this morning, even when senses are going here and there and saying, oh, this is where the pleasure is, let me really go there, even if it's unfavorable, knowingly unfavorable for devotional service. Hearing this, it can pose that question, wait a minute, is it really worth it? What is going to be my, shreyas? Okay, I'm focusing on this short term here. What's going to be the long-term result of this indulging or engagement of my senses in this particular activity? So somehow that example is very visual and very practical, Prabhu. Thank you so much for bringing it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mate. So actually, one thing from your points, which I liked was the short-term things. I guess when we try to, those senses are try to pull us towards the short-term goal or for the current enjoyment, then what is the benefit of the long-term goal? So being always conscious of our activities, is it beneficial for me, as you mentioned? So that would really bring, at least for me, that's a takeaway point. Like me, it might bring me more closer to Krishna. Yeah. Thank you. So if no one has any other thoughts of sharing, that we can close on the call. It's 8:02. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Wish you all very happy Krishna conscious day ahead. Thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu.
Thank you, brother.